In this video, we are going to go through a Git workflow to create a simple PR for a spelling error in an AWX file. There are lots of ways to do things in Git, so if you already have a workflow that works for you, it's likely fine to keep using it. In this video, I'm going to reuse the same machine I built from the first video. The first thing I'm going to do is generate an SSH key with the command SSH keygen. If you already have an SSH key set up, you can skip this step. Next, I'm going to log into GitHub as a dummy account I created and add the newly generated SSH key to the account's profile. This will get us set up to be able to interact with our repositories over SSH instead of HTTPS. Interacting via SSH will allow us to authenticate with our SSH key instead of typing our username and password at the command line when pushing data into our repository. Now that GitHub is set up, we are going to fork the AWX repository. Doing this creates a copy of the Ansible AWX repository in our user's organization on GitHub. This is needed because a GitHub user who is outside of the Ansible organization would not have permissions to create a branch or commit directly to the Ansible AWX repository. To make the fork, I go to github.com/ansible/AWX and then click the fork button. If you are a member of multiple organizations, it will ask you which organization you want the fork created in. If you only have one organization like this user does, it will automatically use that organization. Here is a picture of what we just did. In GitHub, there is an Ansible organization which has a repository called AWX. When we created a user in GitHub, GitHub automatically created an organization for that user. And then when we forked or copied the AWX repository, we made a clone of it inside of the user's organizations. This gives us a place to work. Next, we are going to pull down our version of the code from GitHub to our local machine. There are several tools that you can use to interact with Git. I prefer the command line most of the time, and will use that for this video. First, in GitHub, I'm going to click on the green code button and make sure SSH is selected and copy the repository's URL. Next, I'm going to go into my terminal. In here, I will use the git command line to clone the repository from GitHub to my machine. To do this, I type git clone and then paste in the URL and hit enter. The git binary on my local machine will talk to GitHub and pull down the repository for us. The AWX repository is fairly large, so this task takes a minute to complete. Going back to our picture, we can see we've added our laptop and that we are cloning the repository from GitHub down to our laptop. Next, we are going to create a branch in our repository. A branch is a place where we can work and make our changes. When we forked the AWX repository, we got the default branch, which is called Devil. And when we cloned the repo, we got its default Devil branch. If we type in our command line git branch, we will see a single branch called Devil, and it has a star next to it because we are on this branch. Here is our picture showing that Ansible AWX and our user's AWX repo and our local all have the Devil branch. To create a new branch, I'm going to type git checkout-b and then the name of the branch. For this demo, I'm going to call this branch spelling_fix. We will see Git confirm that I have made a new branch called spelling fix. If I type the git branch command again, we will see both our Devil branch and the new spelling fix branch, and that we are working on the spelling fix branch as indicated by the star. While we could make a change directly in our Devil branch, this would cause issues in the future if anyone else made a commit to the Ansible AWX Devil branch, because our commit history would be out of sync. We will talk about how to get updates from the Devil branch of Ansible AWX in the future. Let's take another look at our picture. Here we can see that on only our local machine, we have created a new branch called spelling fix from the Devil branch. And as indicated by the star, we are currently using the spelling fix branch. Now we can actually make our change to our local files. I'm going to use VI to make my change, but you could use any other editor or IDE that you wanted to. I'd like to give a shout out to Alan Coding for finding these spelling mistakes and allowing me to fix them in this video. Okay, now that I have my file saved locally, I need to make a commit into my branch. First, I would like to point you to the README file inside of the AWX repository. It's at the root, and it's called dco_1_1.md. The AWX project asks that you add a sign-off to your commit for additional validation and agreement to the terms we've set forth. Now back to the commit. Again, I would like to restate that in Git there are several ways to do things. If you already have a method you are comfortable with and use to commit files into your branch, please feel free to continue to use that. For me, I'm simply going to type git commit --signoff -m followed by a commit message. For this commit, I'm going to make the message fix spelling error in README of AWX collection /tools, followed by the file name that I modified. In our contributing MD guide found on the Ansible AWX repository in the root, you can find a link for how to write a good commit message. When I attempt to do the commit, Git is going to tell me that it does not know who I am. If we read the output, we can see a suggestion on how to remediate this and also how to fix the commit that we just made. Let's do this now. I'm going to set my name and email as suggested. And next, I'm going to update the commit to add that information just as the original message from Git told me to. Now that the commit is completed, let's look at the history log of our branch. To do this, we use the command git log. In here, we can see that our branch, spelling fix, is one commit ahead of the devil branch, and that commit was made by us, and we can see our email and name that we just fixed. The number next to the commit is called a SHA, and it's how we can reference the commit. We can also see that the origin devil branch is a commit just below our commit. Origin is the default name of where we clone the repository from. The origin specified here indicates our user's organization /AWX repository. Going back to our picture, we can see the devil branch on our local machine pointing to one SHA and our spelling fix branch pointing to another SHA. Now it's time for us to push our updated code from our local machine into our repository on GitHub. To do this, I'm going to type git push. This is going to give me an error because Git is unsure exactly where I want to push this branch to. Again, Git's error messages are very nice, and it gives us a recommendation on what it thinks we want to do. In this case, it's correct, so I will copy and paste this command, which tells Git that I want to push this branch to my origin, which is the AWX repo in my user's organization, as a branch called spelling fix. Here's a picture showing what this command has done. Now we're going to open a PR from our user's repository into the AWX repository. The first time you push a branch from command line, Git will give you a handy link to do this. We can also go to GitHub and it will display a message saying that we have recently made changes and suggest to contribute them back. When I click on the compare and pull request button, we will be brought to a new page. At the top of this page, we can see that we are going to contribute from our user's spelling fix branch into the Ansible /AWX devil branch. This is normally what you would be doing as an individual contributor. In some cases, if you are collaborating with an engineer, you might be pushing into a feature branch on the AWX repo. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on Matrix or in the mailing list. First, we want to make sure that our PR title is concise and clear. This will be part of the release notes for AWX. It should default to the commit message you have made with a character limitation on it. Since we're okay with the commit message, I'm going to just let it use that. Next, we are going to add a summary which will give more detail about our use cases. Our change is very simple, so I'm simply going to say fix 2 spelling errors in AWX collection tools readme.md file. Next, we need to select one of the issue types and delete the other 2. These issue types indicate to the release process whether an AWX release with this commit should be an X, Y, or Z change. For example, if we are on AWX 23.0.0 and this commit had an issue type of breaking change, the next release would be 24.0.0. If the commit had an issue type of new or enhanced feature, we would release 23.1.0. And if the issue type was bug, doc fix, or other nominal change, we would release 23.0.1. Our change clearly falls into the bug, doc fix, or other nominal change, so I will remove the other 2 options. The component name tells us what is being changed. One PR can change more than one component, but in our case, we only change docs, so I'm going to remove the other options. AWX version can be obtained by running the indicated command, so we'll do that now and add that in. Finally, if this was a functional change, we might add details about how to test before and after the change, or what our expected change should do or what behavior it's changing in the additional information section. Now we can scroll down past the PR body and look at the commits that are being merged. If you see more than you expect, you will want to check to make sure you are requesting to merge into Devil or that you didn't create your fix from a branch other than Devil. After the commits, you can see the files changed. Green lines are added or changed, red lines are removed. Since this PR looks how we expect it, we will be scrolling back up to the top and clicking on the Create Pull Request button. This is all that a developer is expected to do for now. However, for this video, I want to take this PR all the way to completion. So I am now going to log in as myself to GitHub and show you what would happen next. Here is my view of the PR. We can see that this PR was labeled with community, which means that this PR would likely first be discussed in an engineering meeting where we would decide if we wanted this PR to be merged. Since this PR is just a spelling check, we will definitely want to include it in the project. At the very bottom of the page, I can see that the CI checks have not yet run. These are a series of checks which do things like run linters, look for changes to the AWX schema, run our unit tests, and other things. One check even confirms that we have only selected one and only one of the issue types in the PR body. This is overkill for a simple spelling mistake, but it's something we have to do in order to get the merge button clickable. Since I know this is just a simple spelling PR, before I run the CI checks, I will scroll up and review the files changed. Everything looks exactly as I expect, so I'll give my approval on the PR. So I'm now going to release this PR to be run, and it will take a little while for that to happen. Now that all of the checks have passed, as a maintainer of the project, I am given the merge button, and I will go ahead and merge this commit into the source code. Finally, we're going to talk about how to get this change back into your fork and your local working copy. To do this, we're going to use a concept in Git called remotes. We have already indirectly talked a little bit about this before, and in the local version of the repository, we already have one remote called origin. Let's look at the remote with the remote-v command. In this output, we can see that we can fetch and push from our user's organization /AWX repository, and that its name is origin. Now we are going to add another remote that we will call upstream and point it to the original Ansible /AWX repository. To do this, we type in git remote add upstream https://github.com/ansible/awx.get. Since the AWX repository is public, and we will never be pushing directly to there, I'm going to use the HTTPS URL just as a demonstration, but you could also use the SSH URL as well. If you are not sure what the SSH URL would be, you can go to the GitHub project, click on the green code button, make sure the SSH area is selected. Now let's take a look at our picture again, and this is what our repository currently looks like. Now that we have the remote added, the next step is to check out our local devil branch with the command git checkout devil. This time we don't need to specify the -b because the branch already exists. Note, in this picture, the star has changed from the spelling fix branch back to the devil branch. Now we're going to pull from the upstream remote to get our commit that's been added to AWX down into our local devil branch. To do this, we type git pull upstream devil. This will tell Git that we want to pull all of the new commits from the upstream project for the devil branch into our current branch. This will update our local devil branch with any new commits that have been added to the devil branch on Ansible AWX. In our case, it should only be our commit, which we recently merged. So going back to our picture, we can now see that the commit that was merged into Ansible AWX is now inside of our local machine's devil branch. If we had used the devil branch for our development, we would now have run into an issue here because our local devil branch would already have the commit we just attempted to pull. This could cause conflicts. Now that our local devil branch is in sync with Ansible AWX, we can push the changes back into our GitHub fork. To do this, we just run git push. Git already knows this devil branch is synced with the origin devil, so we don't need any additional information. After the push, our state will look like this in the slides, and you can see everything should be in sync. We're now ready to take on another project by starting this process all over again with the branching step. Git is a very powerful tool, and this has been one example of how it can be used. There are lots of documentation and how-tos for Git that can be found online. You can get into scenarios where there are conflicts and/or commands don't work like you expect them to, but for the most part, there are ways to get yourself out of trouble. In a worst-case scenario, you can always delete your local repository and clone your GitHub fork again. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments if there are any additional subjects you would like to see videos on. And as always, feel free to reach out to us on Matrix if you have questions or just want to chat.